The dog that didn't bark? The sky above the ruined planet was dark and full of smoke. Bombs had fallen just hours ago. Fires still burned between broken steel and crushed alien buildings. The war between humans and the alien race known as the Tharn had left nothing behind but silence and ash. Private Jace walked slowly through the battlefield. His armor was scratched, his helmet cracked, but he was still alive. He held his rifle close, but his eyes scanned the shadows. With him was Max, his loyal dog, a large German shepherd with sharp senses and a heart trained to protect. Jace trusted Max more than any human. Max had saved his life twice already. Clear so far, Jace muttered, kicking aside some metal debris. He looked around the ruins. His squad had moved ahead. He stayed behind to scan for any remaining threats. The only sound was the wind. Suddenly, Max stopped. Jace noticed immediately. The dog's ears perked up, nose twitching. Max sniffed the air and moved toward a pile of rubble, but he didn't bark. He didn't growl. Instead, Max whined. It was soft, almost like a cry. Jace frowned. "What is it, boy?" he asked. Max pawed at the broken debris, circling it carefully. Jace raised his weapon and stepped closer. Something was under the wreckage. Carefully, he pushed aside a broken beam. There it was. A body. An alien body. The skin was blue-gray and strange. Glowing tattoos marked the figure's face. It was a Tharn soldier, one of the enemy. The alien's armor was torn, its leg twisted badly. Blood, a thick purple liquid, covered the ground beneath her. Jace's finger moved toward the trigger, but Max stepped in between. The dog barked once. Not loud, not angry. Almost like a warning or a request. "What the hell?" Jace whispered. The alien moved. She was alive. Her eyes opened slowly. Bright silver eyes, full of pain and fear. She tried to lift her hand, but her arm fell back, too weak. Jace looked down at her. This was his enemy. He had orders to shoot any surviving Tharn, but Max stood beside her. His tail low, ears down, but no aggression, just quiet alertness. The dog's behavior was strange. He always barked at Tharn soldiers, always attacked on command. This time he didn't. Jace lowered his rifle. The alien's lips moved. Her voice was dry, but one word came out, shaking. "Please." That single word hit Jace like a blast wave. He wasn't sure if he was hearing things, but it was English. Not perfect, but close enough. "Please. Don't." She whispered again, her voice like broken glass. Jace stood there, frozen. Everything inside him screamed enemy, but something in Max's eyes said no. "Damn it," he muttered, dropping to his knees. He checked her wounds. Her leg was bad, very bad. If she didn't get help, she would die. Her pulse was weak. Her armor was burned and melting into her skin. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Still, Jace didn't know what to do. "You're lucky he found you," he said, nodding to Max. The alien's eyes followed the dog. Her expression softened. She didn't speak again, just looked at Max, then at Jace. Jace sighed and looked around. "If anyone sees me with you, I'll be executed," he muttered. "And still, I can't just leave you here." He grabbed his field pack and took out water. He held it to her lips. At first she hesitated, but then she drank. Slow, careful sips. Max sat beside her, tail thumping once. Jace looked down at them both. "What are you, huh?" he asked quietly. "Why didn't you let me shoot?" The dog didn't answer, of course, but his eyes said everything. Somehow this wasn't just an enemy. This was something more. The night grew colder on the battlefield. Jace sat by a small fire hidden deep in a half-broken tunnel. The flames were small, barely enough to keep warm, but he couldn't risk more light. Above them, patrol drones buzzed. One wrong move and both he and the alien girl would be found. The alien, still unknown to him, was unconscious again. She had passed out after drinking a little water. Her body was burning with fever, and her breathing came in sharp, painful. Gasps. Max lay beside her, his body curled protectively against hers. The dog growled low whenever Jace moved too fast, as if warning him to stay gentle. Jace found it strange. Max had fought Tharn soldiers before. He never trusted any of them, but with her he acted different. Jace leaned back against the cold wall. I must have gone mad, he muttered to himself. Helping the enemy. What the hell am I doing? He looked over again. The alien's hand was clutching Max's fur. Even in her sleep, she seemed to know Max was a friend. Suddenly, her eyes opened, wide. Silver, alert. She looked straight at Jace. Her body tensed. Jace raised his hands. Easy, easy, he said softly. She stared at him, eyes filled with fear. Her hand reached toward the edge of a sharp metal shard nearby. Her fingers shook. I'm not going to hurt you, Jace said quickly. You're safe. I gave you water. Remember? She blinked, trying to process. Her body trembled from pain and weakness. Then slowly she relaxed. Just a little. Jace pointed at himself. Human. Name's Jace. He tapped his chest. Jace. Then he pointed at Max. That's Max. My dog. She followed his finger and looked at Max. The dog gave a small bark and wagged his tail. Why? She whispered. Her voice was dry and hoarse but clear this time. Her words were broken, but she spoke English. Jace leaned forward. Why what? She looked down at her hands, then at the fire. Why help? Me? Jace hesitated. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe because Max didn't want me to shoot. Maybe because you asked me to stop. The alien girl stared at him for a long time. Then she coughed, her whole body shaking. Jace reached out and she didn't. Pull away. He gave her another sip of water. Then he noticed something strange. On her wrist, hidden under the torn armor, was a thin, glowing band. Not just decoration, some kind of tech. Maybe a tracker. Maybe something more. Jace narrowed his eyes. You military? She nodded weakly. Commander. 2nd Fleet. His heart skipped. He wasn't helping a common soldier. She was a commander. That meant danger. Big danger. What's your name? He asked quietly. She hesitated, then said, Sarah. Sarah, Jace repeated. Okay. You need help, Sarah. But you're my enemy. She looked at him calmly. We are not enemies now. That hit harder than he expected. Jace didn't reply. Instead, he reached into his pack and pulled out some dried rations. He broke a small piece and offered it to her. Sarah stared at the food like it was a miracle. She took it, slowly chewing. Her body looked ready to collapse again. Jace noticed something else. Her skin was warm. Too warm. She had a fever, and the wound on her leg looked infected. We have to clean that, he said, more to himself than to her. Sarah's eyes closed. I was left behind, she said quietly. My own ship ran. Jace frowned. They left you to die? She didn't answer, but the silence said everything. Outside, the wind howled through the broken ruins. Jace stood and walked toward the entrance of the tunnel. He peeked out. Drones were still searching. Maybe they were after him. Maybe after her. Maybe both. He returned, inside, and sat beside the fire. Max rested his head on Sarah's lap. Jace sighed. You're gonna get me killed, boy, he said softly. Sarah opened her eyes again. Your dog? Different? Jace nodded. Yeah, he's got a strange sense about people. She looked at Max with something like wonder. He saved me. Jace looked at her, then back at Max. He did, he agreed. For the first time, Jace noticed something strange in himself, too. He wasn't afraid anymore. Not of her. Not of what she was. Somewhere between the gunfire, the silence, and Max's Soft growl, things had changed. The enemy wasn't just an enemy anymore. She breathed like them, she bled like them, and maybe, just maybe, she wanted peace more than war. It was the sound of her voice that woke him. Do all humans sleep with one eye open? Jace sat up fast, hand reaching for his rifle. But Max didn't bark. He was curled beside the fire, peacefully resting. The alien girl, Sarah, was sitting, up now, leaning against the cold wall with one arm wrapped tightly around her wounded leg. Her eyes were brighter than before, sharper. Too sharp for someone who'd nearly died yesterday. Not all humans, Jace replied, still alert. Just the smart ones. Sarah tilted her head slightly. Smart? Or afraid? Jace didn't answer. He stood and moved closer to the fire, tossing in more scraps of wood. The flames cracked softly. The warmth pushed back the cold, but it couldn't melt the tension. In the air. You speak our language too well for someone who's supposed to hate us, Jace said finally. Sarah looked down. I studied your species for war, not for talk. Jace raised a brow. And yet here we are, talking. A strange silence settled between them. Not angry, not peaceful, just fragile. Max suddenly barked. Once, sharp, alert. Jace jumped to his feet and pointed his rifle toward the tunnel entrance. Wait, Sarah whispered, hand raised. It's just a warning. One drone. Far away. Jace froze. How do you know that? She closed her eyes. I can hear the frequency. Jace blinked. What? Sarah tapped the side of her head. Bioenhancement. Hearing upgraded. Jace stepped back slowly. You're not just a commander, are you? No, she replied. I'm part of a project. Now Jace felt cold even near the fire. What kind of project, he asked. Sarah hesitated. Then she looked at him directly. Peace through control. Jace didn't understand. What does that mean? They designed us, she said, to find weaknesses in other species, then use those weaknesses to keep them in line. Like slaves? Sarah didn't deny it. Like safety through control. Jace shook his head. That's not peace, that's a leash. Sarah looked down. I learned that too late. Jace sat down again, watching her closely. So why are you telling me this, he asked. Because, she said quietly, your dog saw something, before I did. Max walked over and lay his head in Sarah's lap again. She didn't flinch, she smiled. Jace watched the way Max trusted her now. It was strange. No, more than strange. It was something he couldn't explain. I was trained to fear you, she said. But when your dog didn't attack me, something broke inside me. I felt shame, confusion. Then something else. She touched her chest gently. Warmth. Jace didn't say anything. He wasn't sure what to say. Finally, he asked, Why are you really here? On this planet? Sarah looked into the fire. The light danced across her face, making her silver eyes glow like mirrors. I carried data, she said. A secret. My ship was shot down before I could deliver it. My own people. They didn't come back for me. What kind of data? Jace asked, his voice low. She looked at him, calm now. The location of a vault. One that proves the war was started with lies. Your people. My people. We were both tricked. Jace's heart skipped. If what you're saying is true, he began. Sarah nodded. Then everything changes. A long silence followed. Finally, Jace stood up and walked to the entrance again. He stared out into the shadows. My command will never believe you. They don't have to believe me, she said. They only need to see what I've seen. Jace looked back. But they'll kill you before you can speak. I know, she said softly. So what now? Sarah's answer was simple. We run. Jace sighed. You and me? With my dog? 3 against the galaxy, she said with a faint smile. Jace looked at Max. The dog thumped his tail once as if agreeing, and in that moment Jace made a choice. Not as a soldier, not as an enemy, but as a man who had seen something he couldn't unsee. An enemy. Who breathed like him. The ground exploded behind them. Dirt, dust, and shattered metal rained down as Jace pulled Sarah through the broken alley of what used to be a city street. Max barked wildly, running ahead, his ears flat and nose low to the ground. They found us, Jace shouted, dragging her by the arm. Sarah limped badly, her injured leg barely holding weight, but she didn't stop. She clenched her teeth and pushed forward, fueled by fear and something stronger. Hope. Above them, sleek black drones buzzed low, scanning heat signatures. Blue searchlights swept the ruins like ghostly eyes. "Split," Jace ordered. "We can't stay in a straight line. Move." Max darted into a broken shop window, glass crunching under his paws. Jace helped Sarah duck in behind him just as another drone passed overhead. They crouched in the dark, breathing hard, hearts pounding. Jace peeked through the cracks of the ruined wall. "Damn it," he whispered. "They're not just human drones." "Look, those are Tharn scouts too." Sarah's face paled. "Both sides." Jace turned to her. "Yeah, your people and mine, they're both hunting us." "Then it's already begun," she said softly. "What's begun?" "They know I survived the crash, and they know I might talk." Jace leaned back. "My command must have tracked my ID tag. The moment I tried to help you, they marked me as a traitor." "And my people?" she asked. "They probably think you're corrupted." Sarah nodded. "So we are not fugitives from one side." "No," Jace said. "We're enemies to both." Suddenly, Max gave a soft growl. Jace raised his hand. Quiet. Footsteps, heavy boots on metal, a human patrol, about 3 soldiers, entered the street outside. Their flashlights cut across the rubble like daggers. "We tracked him to this sector," one voice said. "If he's hiding with that Tharn creature, Command wants them both eliminated. No questions." Jace and Sarah locked eyes. She whispered, "We can't fight. Not in your condition. Not in mine." Jace nodded. "Then we don't fight. We vanish." He tapped Max's side. The dog took the lead, sniffing fast. Then without a sound, he leapt into a narrow hole behind the shelves. Jace followed, helping Sarah crawl through the tight space. They emerged in an underground chamber, once a storage cellar, now half collapsed. Dust covered everything. It was dark and smelled of rust and death. They collapsed behind a fallen crate. Above, the soldiers passed by. For now, safe. Jace sat against the wall, breathing hard. Sarah lay beside him, her face pale from pain. Max curled against her again, sharing warmth. Jace looked at her. "Why are you risking this?" She didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "Because if I die with the truth inside me, the war never ends." Her words were heavy, real. Jace nodded slowly. "You're not like the others." Sarah smiled faintly. "Neither are you." Hours passed. Silence returned. Then, Max barked once, just once, and sat straight. Someone else was here. Jace raised his rifle. A soft robotic voice echoed from the corner. "Drop your weapon, human. We know you're harboring a fugitive." A metal figure stepped into view, a Tharn hunter drone armed with a plasma blade and autocannon. Its glowing eyes locked onto Sarah. "Commander Sarah, you have disobeyed the Prime Order. Surrender, now or be terminated." Sarah stood shakily, but her voice was steady. "No." The drone charged. Without thinking, Jace jumped in front of her. Max lunged with a savage bark, teeth bared. The drone's blade slashed toward them, but missed. Jace fired 3 shots. Metal struck metal, sparks flew, but the drone kept moving. Then, crash! A support beam collapsed from above, landing directly on the machine. It sparked, buzzed, then fell silent. Dust filled the chamber. Max barked again, this time in victory. Jace coughed. "You all right?" Sarah nodded, stunned. Why, did you jump in front of me? Jace looked at her, then at Max. Because that's what we do, he said. Human or not. You're with me now. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, but she blinked them away. Jace pulled her to her feet. We keep moving. That vault you mentioned, where is it? Sarah took a shaky breath. Northridge, beneath the old satellite base. Jace nodded. Then we make for it. We show them the truth. She gripped his arm. And if we don't make it? He smiled. We will. Max is leading the way. The sky above the old satellite base crackled with static. Black clouds gathered like watchers. Winds howled across the broken cliffs as if warning them not to come closer. But Jace, Sarah, and Max didn't stop. They had walked for hours, through ruins, tunnels, ash fields. Sarah limped badly, using a steel pipe as a cane. Her face was pale, her breath shallow. Jace stayed close, watching every corner, his rifle always ready. Max led the way. The dog stopped suddenly at the base of a metal door buried in sand. He barked once. Sarah placed her hand on a hidden panel. The door clicked and slid open with a long screech. They stepped into darkness. Inside was not what Jace expected. Not war tech, not weapons, but silence. Dusty halls lined with old banners, holographic symbols long dead. It felt sacred, like a forgotten church. Sarah touched a wall. Her hand lit a strip of glowing light. This is it, she whispered. The truth is buried here. Jace looked around. What kind of truth? Sarah moved slowly, her hand trembling. She walked to a sealed glass door at the end of the hall. I wasn't just carrying data, she said. I was carrying a piece of history. What do you mean? Sarah turned. In here, she said, pointing at the glass, is the first signed peace treaty between our ancestors. Jace blinked. Wait, what? Sarah nodded. Hundreds of years ago, before the wars, our species met and agreed to share space, resources, and even homes. But someone erased that history. Why? Because peace doesn't make money. War does. Jace stepped forward. So someone destroyed that agreement and lied to both sides? Yes, she said. And now, that lie lives in every soldier, every weapon, every command. Jace stared through the glass. Inside was a stasis vault, a glowing container. It held a metallic scroll etched with two symbols, a human flag and the Tharn royal seal. Who would believe this? Jace asked. They won't, Sarah said. Unless they see it themselves. Unless we show them. Just then, Max growled. Jace turned, raising his weapon. What is it, boy? Footsteps. Then a voice echoed through the hall. You've gone too far, Private. Jace froze. From the shadows, his own commander, Colonel Briggs, stepped out. Behind him, 4 armored soldiers pointed rifles at them, one aimed directly at Sarah. Briggs's face was cold. I gave you trust, Jace. You threw it away for that creature? She's not a creature, Jace growled. She's proof. Proof of treason. Briggs snapped. And now you'll both pay. Sarah stepped forward, weak but firm. You've lived the lie, she said to Briggs. We're offering truth. Briggs laughed. I don't need your truth, I need control. He raised his weapon. Max barked and lunged but was kicked aside. Jace moved between Briggs and Sarah, shield up. Then, boom, the lights burst out. Sparks flew. The stasis vault behind them began to open. A beam of golden light shot out, casting the treaty in full view. The ancient document hovered between them, floating, glowing with power. All fell silent. Even Briggs. Sarah's voice was strong now. This document is locked to DNA signatures. Mine, and one of yours. Jace looked at her. Mine? She nodded. You are descended from the council that signed it. Briggs stepped back. No, the vault scanned Jace's palm. Automatically. Treaty activation confirmed. A deep hum echoed through the base. Holographic symbols filled the room. Images of human and Tharn leaders shaking hands, building together, eating together. Jace turned to Briggs. You can't silence this. Briggs's eyes twitched. I can try. He fired, but Max was faster. The dog leaped, biting Briggs's arm. The shot missed and hit the ceiling. Debris rained down. Jace tackled Briggs. Sarah hit the ground. A second later, one of Briggs' soldiers, stunned by what he saw, lowered his weapon. I didn't know. Another followed. Soon, all except Briggs stood in silence, staring at the truth glowing before them. Briggs struggled, pinned. You think this ends the war? No, Jay said, but it starts something new. Sarah touched the treaty. Its light flowed through her fingers. Tears rolled down her face. My people thought humans were monsters, she whispered. Jay smiled softly. And my people thought yours were soulless. They looked at each other, not as enemies now, but as survivors of the same lie. And standing between them was Max. Tail wagging. Proud. The treaty was now alive in the system. The ancient truth, once buried, now glowed across the satellite. Base's main chamber. Holographic screens showed human generals shaking hands with Tharn elders. Audio echoes of peaceful promises filled the air, and yet, not everyone celebrated. Jace held Sarah as she leaned on him, breathing weakly. Her wound still needed treatment, but her spirit was unbroken. Max stood guard beside them, ears sharp, eyes locked on the soldiers. Some of them had lowered their weapons, some still hadn't, and one was hiding something. Sarah turned to Jace, whispering, We need to transmit this treaty. It's only safe if the galaxy sees it. Jace nodded and walked to the main console. He placed his hand on the surface, still glowing from the DNA scan earlier. But suddenly, click, a gun cocked behind him. He turned slowly. It wasn't Briggs this time. It was Private Lane, a soldier from Jace's own unit. Young, nervous, eyes shaking. Don't do it, Lane said. Please. Jace frowned. Lane, you saw the treaty. You know it's real. I did, Lane said. And that's the problem. What? If the war ends and my family loses everything, they own shipyards, build weapons. We're rich because people die. Jace's heart dropped. So you'd shoot your own teammate. For money? Lane's hands trembled. It's not just money, it's everything. Power. Control. My father told me, if this war ends, we lose Earth's grip. Behind Lane, Briggs grinned from the floor, still wounded. Told you someone would do it for me, then bang. The gunshot rang out, but Lane didn't fire. He collapsed forward, hit in the leg. Max stood behind him, smoke curling from a small stolen shock rifle tied to his back. Jace blinked. Did Max just fire a gun? Sarah gave a small laugh through her pain. Smartest soldier in your army. Lane groaned on the floor, reaching for the gun again. Jace kicked it away. I won't kill you, he said coldly, but I'll make sure the world knows what you tried to do. Suddenly, the base lights dimmed. Sarah gasped. They're jamming the signal. Jace ran to the console. Static lines now covered the transmission feed. Someone was trying to shut down the treaty activation before it reached the outer network. Sarah forced herself up. There's a backup node, she said. Outside, on the tower's peak. Jace looked at her, then at Max. He nodded. We finish this. The three of them climbed the ancient stairway toward the top of the satellite tower. Wind howled through broken glass panels. Lightning flashed in the clouds above. The signal booster glowed faint blue at the top. They were almost there. But then, a figure blocked their path. Not human, not Tharn, a hybrid, half metal, half organic, a genetically enhanced assassin from the hidden faction Sarah had warned about. I was created to stop this moment, the creature said, voice echoing like metal scraping stone. Sarah's face turned white. Project Silence, she whispered. Jace stepped forward, raising his rifle. Get out of our way. You are not authorized to change the future. the hybrid replied. Jace didn't wait. He opened fire. The bullets hit, but the creature moved like wind. It dodged, rolled, then struck back with a glowing spear. Jace was knocked to the ground. Sarah screamed, but Max jumped in between, biting hard into the creature's side. Sparks flew. The hybrid howled. Sarah dragged herself to the console, fingers shaking as she began entering the override codes. "Keep him busy," she yelled. Jace rose again, bleeding but focused. He fought with everything he had. Max barked, dodged, and leapt at the hybrid's throat. Then, one last shot. Jace fired straight into the creature's eye. It fell, sparking, twitching, and finally, silent. The transmission completed. The treaty lit the sky above the base. Dozens of satellites picked up the message. Images of the peace pact spread across screens, networks, cities, and space stations across both human and alien colonies. It could no longer be hidden. It could no longer be buried. Sarah collapsed. Jace caught her. "It's done," he whispered. She smiled faintly. Then the betrayal was worth it. Jace looked at her, then at Max, bruised but standing strong. "No," he said quietly. "The truth was worth it." The sky changed. Across stars and systems, across human colonies and Tharn worlds, the ancient treaty lit up every screen, in bunkers, in war rooms, in classrooms, in homes. Soldiers paused with fingers on triggers. Children pointed at holograms of humans and aliens smiling side by side, something their books never taught them. The lie had cracked. And from the crack, hope began to pour out. Atop the broken satellite tower, wind roared around Jace as he knelt beside Sarah. She was cold, pale, still. He pressed his hand to her chest. She was breathing, but barely. "Hang on," he whispered. "You made it this far. You don't get to stop now." Max sat beside them, quiet and still. The battle had drained them all. Blood stained the dog's fur, but his eyes were focused on Sarah, as if willing her to wake up. Jace opened his comm. "This is private. Jace Renner, broadcast secured, treaty released. But I need medical evac, now. We have a wounded Tharn commander, and I swear, if anyone comes to finish the job, I'll defend her to my last breath." Silence. Then, a crackling voice replied. "Copy. That Renner. Message received. And understood." The dropship arrived 20 minutes later. Its engines stirred the sand as it landed beside the tower. The back ramp opened slowly, but instead of weapons drawn, the soldiers walked out unarmed. 2 medics rushed to Sarah and lifted her onto a stretcher. Jace stepped in front of them. "Be gentle," he warned. One medic nodded. "We saw the footage. Sir, all of it. We're not here to harm." Jace stepped back, and Max followed the stretcher, his tail wagging just once, like a sign of trust. As the dropship flew through the atmosphere, Jace stared out the window. Below, he saw what once was a battlefield, but now, soldiers were gathering in circles, laying down arms. Human and Tharn alike staring at their screens, replaying the treaty footage again and again. Some cried, some laughed. Some just sat in silence, realizing everything had changed. 3 days. Later, Sarah woke up. She was in a human medical center. Soft lights, clean walls, the smell of sterilized hope. She turned her head. Jace was asleep in the chair beside her. Max was curled at the foot of her bed. She smiled. "You both made it," she whispered. Jace stirred. He looked up, eyes tired but bright. "You scared the hell out of me." She reached for his hand. "I'm glad. You didn't give up." Jace squeezed her hand gently. "I couldn't. Not after what we saw. Not after what we shared." Outside the medical center, cameras flashed. News networks from all species broadcast the story of the human soldier and the alien commander, and the dog who changed everything. They called it the Peace of Three: a human, an alien, and a dog. 3 beings who stopped a war by trusting what their hearts knew before their heads did. In the weeks that followed, The first joint council between humans and Tharn was formed. Weapon factories were shut down. Propaganda was replaced with the truth. And Max was awarded the Galactic Peace Medal, the highest honor ever given to a non-human. He wore it proudly, with a silly grin and a wagging tail. One evening, Jace and Sarah stood side by side at a rebuilt garden that replaced the old battlefield. "Will it last?" she asked, her hand in his. Jace looked up at the stars. "No peace lasts forever," he said. "But this one started with a treaty and was saved by a dog." Sarah smiled. "Then maybe it has a fighting chance." They leaned closer. Not as enemies, not even as survivors, but as the first spark of something new. And Max? Max just barked once as if to say, "Took you long enough."